The most important thing is you've got to be switched on at all times. It takes a lot of mental capital to be extremely disciplined at all times, because if you slip up for a second, long or short, you make one error, long and short, like you'll be punished beyond measure. Like the potential punishment if you make one small mistake is huge. So it's very easy to make, not very easy. It's easier to make money long. It's easier to make money short, but it's also much easier to get very badly punished for a mistake because the volatility is insane.
That's why I just say, that's that whole bus station analogy I mention all the time. I'm like, to me, now it takes discipline, but to me, it's never been easier to get stopped out. Okay. And that might sound weird, but it's like, to me, it's just like, take the stop. All right, welcome back, everyone, to the SteadyTrade podcast. Back here with Kim and Steven. Man, it is interesting. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. We happen to this is our normal scheduled time. We record typically on Wednesday afternoons, and we're recording on, in my opinion, probably just from like a market perspective. This is like in a October 87 or a September 2007, whenever the Bear Stearns went back. It's just the opposite. It's the opposite. And I love it. And because to me, it's so interesting because, and we'll talk about this a lot for context, but it's just like, I keep tweeting, power to the people. And, something that, one of the reasons I got active on social media, one of the reasons we've been doing the podcast for 4 years is we Steven and everyone at StocksToTrade, we recognized that, the opportunity out there. And listen, we're going to talk about GameStop. I'm not saying you should have bought GameStop at 8 and sold it at 350. It's not the point, but the point is there's this shift. There is a distinct shift of taking the power back. I played a Rage Against the Machine, take the power back on my live stream this morning as I was smashing things. I threw several things, but and I love it, and I think that this is just that sea shift that I've been talking about for 4 years now. And I go back, and I joked with Kim before the podcast. Definitely listen to the Market Maker podcast with JJ. We did that 3 weeks ago, and now this happens. And it's just like, yep. I like to think that us and JJ were like a part of that we cracked the code. It's like he was Neo,
let you in,
and he broke open the Matrix, and we were just the conduit. So. What do you think?
Oh my God,
Steven?
isn't that a great theory, Steven?
Yes,
by giving him a platform.
I like the theory; it's very good. But what is more impressive and what I'm more blown away by is, this is probably the craziest day in market history. It has to be in terms of volume, in terms of dollar volume, in terms of active traders. It has to be the craziest day in market history today, and it's also a wonderful day because it's like F the system. It's these hedge funds that have manipulated and controlled things for so many years. They come together in power of social media to let the small man rise up collectively with strength and overturn hedge funds, making them blow up. It's just absolutely an amazing time to be alive and an amazing time to trade.
And there's, just so for some context, I'm guessing by the time this airs, everyone will know. But basically what we're talking about is what has changed. Now, this has been coming for quite some time, but we reached critical mass recently where, we're particularly talking about, when we talk about all social media, but particularly the Wall Street Bets forum on Reddit. I think there's like 500,000 people in there right now or something. And what has happened and why I'm so is and listen, I'm not trying to take credit Not at all.
Giddy? Did you say giddy? Just
Giddy.
checking on the board.
Giddy.
I love that word. It's one of my favorite words.
Giddy as a schoolgirl. I'm giddy as a schoolgirl. What I love, and listen, number one, I'm not taking any of the credit for this, but they took like my favorite strategy that I've been talking about 5 years. They all just looked for the heavily shorted stocks, you know, and they just were like, pile into them, bring the volume. You know, again, if you're on a pre-market prep or you're on SteadyTrade team, what's the number one thing we look at? Heavily shorted stocks in a hot sector with ridiculous volume. And they took GameStop. They were like, I mean, GameStop is doomed. Hell, by the time this podcast airs, GameStop might be out of business. Right today, the stock's at $400 a share from 10. Okay, and I just love it because they're like, listen, who's short these stocks? You know, who is it? It's not Kim. It's not my dad. It's not your retirement account. Because remember, IRAs, mutual funds, they can't short stocks. They're prohibited from it. You know, you can't short stocks in your retirement funds. You're locked out of it. Who short these? The fat cats doing the deals in the back room, you know, going on CNBC, tanking stuff, you know, manipulate. I mean, they've been doing it for 150 years, and it's all well and good until Wall Street Bets decides to do it, and they decide to find this edge and pile into heavily shorted stocks and smoke them. And now you got, you know, Stevie Cohen going out, you know, again, I probably shouldn't, he'll probably come after me. Shouldn't say his name. Bleep that out. But hedge fund managers, you know, complaining about this stuff. And it's like, why? You know, just because, you know, Joe Main Street figured out what you've been doing, you know, for 150 years.
But I mean, look, ultimately the great thing for this is the patterns still, all of the patterns work. So like as a trader, all we need is volatility. Like that's all I ask for. All I ask for is volatility and a bunch of stupid traders to compete against. And it works though, because even with these Wall Street bets, all you know is like, look, there's huge volatility and there's huge volume. So when you buy in your double bottoms, when you buy in your wedge breaks, when you buy in your VWAP holds, you're getting the entry that will make you win. But the people, the masses that follow and chase, they will all lose in the long term. But then when you're getting your overextensions, when you're getting the massive overextensions that they're getting heavy and they're up 300% and they've gone literally parabolic, you see them rolling over, and you've got not a very safe short. It's never a safe short, but you've got a short with a clear risk on the high of the day. Do you know what I mean? And they come all the way back down because it's trash. At the end of the day, it's up for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, I mean, listen, and I was actually, you know, this is what's so interesting. What I love again about GameStop, you know, Kim mentioned she's getting calls. I'm getting calls from like old businesses. Yeah. Business associates that don't even trade. They're like, what is going on here? And one of my old business partners, he's like, GameStop's going out of business. What are you I'm like, it doesn't matter. That's not what's going on this week. Yes. I'm like, GameStop's going out of business. Okay. They're Blockbuster. It's over. But that doesn't mean you can't trade dip and rips and VWAP holds and VWAP fails and high-a-day rejects and stuff moves all day long for 20, 30, 40, $50 a share. And when you're trading with a small account, you're trading options. That's the beauty. Most of these guys are on Wall Street Bets are all trading options. So it's like no PDT, you know, it's like they're just hammering everything, you know, so.
I just can't help but think of the Big Short. I just keep seeing Michael Burry's face walking out of his room and that whiteboard where he's
hey, guess who shorted GME last night and deleted all his tweets?
Who
has 0 tweets on his account right now?
Wow.
Who actually is this?
Burry. He deleted all his tweets after he went short GME.
Right.
He's gonna come out. I've got to making enemies left and right. So no.
Yep. But
he deleted everything last night. Deleted all his account. Yep. So
what the hell?
Yeah, he probably lost a lot of money. He did lose, but he didn't lose his own money. Thank God. He lost just the bank's money, which is a little bit better. But But the thing is though, like,
oh my God.
If I blow up, who bails me out? That's what I was saying earlier. Like, no one bails me out when I blow up. So how does this Melvin Capital get bailed out? But anyway, but the more important thing is, it's really important during times of this volatility to have very precise entries. And if it's like, that's how you get the edge on everyone else. It's just by having a very precise, careful entry. I just want to help
okay,
people.
so speak more about that for the beginners, right? How can you advocate that in the midst of this right now? Because
you can't. Okay. You can't, because they don't know, because they haven't got the year of experience, the 2 years of experience. They haven't got the screen time. They haven't seen. It's like Tim Sykes talks about it all the time. It's like when preparation meets opportunity, they haven't done the preparation. So they're just not going to trade it well, no matter what. They're not going to be able to do it. You need to put the years in. And for us, people are like, I'm having a record week. I see other people having record weeks, record months. Like, it's because we've been around and we know exactly what to do and where. So all I can tell other people is, don't even bother trying to trade this. Watch it, get the screen time, trade it tiny if you have to get a feel.
Yep.
But start learning, because it's not going anywhere.
Yeah, and that was my rant this morning. I'm like, just start, and well said. And when I say start, I don't care if you're trading one share of GME, okay?
Yeah.
But like Steven's very well said, Steven, start putting in those reps now. And if you make $10 a share, it's $10. Hey, $10. But the point is, be very, very, very careful. But start now, because I mean, it's everybody. I use this quote a million times, but the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. Second best times today. Get that freaking tree in the ground.
Totally.
I just have to say as well, like, discipline is a muscle.
Yep.
Discipline is a muscle. I was very weak and skinny and didn't have very big muscles when I started, as everyone will know.
Everybody. I mean,
everybody is, right? Like, if you don't have discipline, if you haven't worked on that process, you should never be playing GME, KOSS,
unless again,
AMC,
one share,
AMC. You should not be playing them.
Or 10 shares or something, But
even cost, I played cost with 20 shares and made $160. I'm like, what the hell is going on? 88 to 28, unbelievable.
So what's going to happen, guys? What's going to happen? I mean, do you really think the SEC is going to just, like, I don't even know what they could do. Like, what are you going to do? Get a guy on Reddit in trouble? It's all anonymous. Like,
well, it's like, happen? I mean, it's like, I got the tinfoil hat on. I mean, I don't know if you saw, Kim, like, at 10 a.m., like, every retail brokerage account went down, and it's like, oh, gee, I wonder if that would have happened if, again, if the fat cats were all winning and all of us minions were, if all of us minions were losing, but so I don't.
That's a funny thing to see.
Because ultimately, I don't, listen, I'm no lawyer, I'm no regulator, I don't know. But it's like, what do you do? Are you going to, like NASDAQ, I did my okay boomer making fun of NASDAQ this morning. They're like, we're going to start looking into these, stocks that are talked about a lot on social media. And it's like, oh yeah, because you're going in the steakhouses and you got 6 billionaires that can move billions of dollars, and you're listening in on what they're talking about as they're smoking their cigars. Meanwhile, just because 500,000 Robin Hooders with $500 accounts are doing the same thing, but what do you do? I don't know. Volatility halts already exist, which are freaking stupid. I mean, if anything, you should take the volatility halts out.
I don't know.
As a short, I don't mind them. Honestly, as a short, I don't mind them, because it gives you a few minutes to be like, I've just got smoked. What's me plan? What's me plan? What do I do here?
But again, I don't know. What do you do? Do you if like, I mean, if a stock is trading 50 times the float, do you halt trading for a day? I don't know. Now here's what I will say. Mark my words, whatever they do will be a disaster. It'll be my boy Ronald Reagan, my favorite quote. the 9 most dangerous words in the dictionary are I'm from the government and I'm here to help. You know, whatever they do, they'll screw it up. It'll be the PDT. They'll do a PDT. I mean, remember the PDT came from the .com boom, dumbest rule ever. Yeah. So I mean that because everyone was speculating from work on their computers, and you know,
it's margin though. Like PDT margin, I kind of get it because people who don't know what they're doing are doing stuff with money they don't have. So like,
I get margin.
I mean? Like,
I get margin, but why would you force? I mean, again, back to we've talked about the PDT way too much. Why would you force me to stay in a trade because I don't want to use my last day trade if I've got $24,999 in my account?
No, I mean, but you can use a cash account. No, but if you use a cash account, you don't have to have margin, right?
Right.
So like you can not be under PDT. It's specifically for people who have margin.
But again, would you? Okay, you're Joe SEC, and people are speculating too much in the markets. Would you come up with 3 in and outs in a rolling 5-day? Would that be your rule?
Go to.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying, and I mean, I think PDT is a nightmare for an aspiring trader. Like, I've never really truly dealt with the shackles of it because I've not been in America.
Right.
So, like, it is a godsend to not be under the PDT. You can't grow a small account with PDT. You have to be like, trading is impossible. PDT trading is double impossible. You need to be a genius to do that.
And it just, to me, it's again the road to. I'm full of anti-government quotes today. Ayn Rand would be proud. You know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Good intentions.
You know, it's like
totally.
I mean, they meant well.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, okay, here I am, you know, Joe Smo with $5,000, and now I'm making I'm staying in losing trades because I'm like, oh man, I don't want to use my last day trade, you know. And
well, hand me your tinfoil hat, and I'll say.
I'm throwing all kinds of shit today.
Is it possible that PDT rule was not crafted to protect the day traders, but perhaps to protect the people on the other side?
Woo! Blasphemy.
Because if it makes it double impossible for a day trader, you know, so perhaps that was created to stop that crazy speculating, and perhaps what's coming next is something similar that, again, puts a big seatbelt on the new day traders of the world.
You know, and again, ultimately, again, what would you do? I mean, I'm sure they can come up with something. You know, the government is infinite in its ability to be incompetent, but you know. I don't know how you put the cat back in the bag. You know, again, I agree. It's like this isn't the .com boom when, I mean, listen, that's back when I was building my business, early 2000s. You know, my business we were selling computers. I mean, for years, we were installing the first computer in people's houses at that point. Wow. You know, I mean, you're talking 2001, 2002. I mean, now it's like I got 8 computers within my reach, you know, iPad, phone, you know, you got 5G, 4G, you know, Wi-Fi everywhere. Man, I just don't know how you'd get that passed. I know. You know, meanwhile, of course, you know, Nancy Pelosi just happens to buy like 100 million in options on Tesla the day before Joe Biden says we're going to convert every federal government vehicle to electric, you know, and it's like, you know, so I mean, they're not looking out for you. Okay. So could they get it passed? Who knows? So
so what do you guys think? What are you doing right now with your trading, Stephen? Like, how are you riding this incredible big wave?
Well, it really helps in a lot of ways. So, I mean, I've tried to go along a couple of these, but it's just too crazy. But generally, I've made good money by just waiting for stuff to get really overextended and shorten trend breaks and shorten the big intra-parabolics. It's a pattern that I've done for years and years and years. So it's just like, all right, that's about to roll over. That trend break is going to work this time because it's definitely overextended. So it's not like money's fallen from the sky, but it's been easier to make money.
Yeah.
And the double advantage is every single trader is in these stocks. So all the other stocks that gap up on the day don't have any volume, so they're all full. So I've got great opportunities short on these when they get overextended on the crazy GMEs and KOSS and EMC. I've got good shorts on them because the chat pumps effectively, and because the chat pumps, you see everyone getting in on the level 2, and then when it rolls over, you see everyone getting out. So it's almost like an OTC the way it's trading. So it's easy to read, massively overextended, and all that attention takes attention from the other shorts, the other gappers, which they don't get volume, so they can't sustain the pre-market move they've already made. So you can hammer them down with conviction that nothing's going to mess with your short. No size is going to come in. So it's win-win for me. I love it.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And again, like, you know, again, the strategies that I trade and teach, you know, it's just, it's looking at, it's those same ideas, those high a day breaks on these heavily shorted stocks. And, you know, you just, I mean, you see it, they just kind of hang around. And when they break the high a day, they rip. You know, you're buying at or around that high a day. You're selling when they freaking, you get that parabolic candle, and then, you know, you're selling shares to Steven, and he rides them back down. I mean, it's just, it's for a retail trader.
True though.
Yeah,
literally true.
It's like I'll take them here and you take them here, and it's just over. And
true.
And it's like, I mean, I drew it on a webinar this morning. It's like, you know, Kim, it's like, it's that wave analogy, you know, it's just like, and, you know, that top of the wave, and then it ripped, and then now the trend is continuing higher, but when they roll over and you get that big red candle, they yank, and then it's just, and if you know these patterns, if you've seen it before, I mean, ultimately the biggest thing, like, and Stephen, I'm sure would attest to this, nothing's different than the last 3 or 4 years. This is just low float stocks, but real names like GameStop, AMC.
Yeah.
And the only difference is there's 50 of them instead of 1 or 2, you know? I mean, it's just BPTH, it's, you know, it's Dries, it's all the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just Wall Street Bets dumped freaking gasoline on the fire. That's the only difference.
But the other difference is that in a normal market, some people think it's going to go higher, some people think it's going to go lower, and there's a lot of chop while you decide which way it's going, right?
Yeah.
But in this market, everyone's like, all right, it's all going higher. And then when Wall Street bets are done, it's just going to come all the way back down, and there's not a fight as much. There's not what choppiness. There's no chop because everyone knows it's coming up and everyone knows it's coming down. There's no conflict. It's crazy, which makes the price action easier to read.
I just think of the 3 sets, you know, waves come in 3 sets, you know, and
stocks run in 3 sets. Stocks run in 3 waves. You've picked up on that without knowing.
It's fascinating. It's just fascinating because, you know, the ocean, like, I can't tell you how many times when I first, got to Hawaii, like, I grew up on the North Shore, so I was at Jones Beach, but I don't know that I noticed that 3 set, but now, like, I know, oh, is that the second set? There's 1 more coming. And you'll prepare the canoe or whatever for that next wave. And that's what I think. It's just that familiarity with the ocean, the familiarity with the market that one has to have to be able to navigate the storms that come in, or the big waves, or the seasons. Like, you have to know what it feels like and looks like every day, no matter the weather, no matter the conditions, no matter the time of year, because over time there is that pattern that just becomes natural.
But the most important thing is you've got to be switched on at all times. It takes a lot of mental capital to be extremely disciplined at all times, because if you slip up for a second, long or short, you make 1 error, long and short, like, you'll be punished beyond measure. Like, the potential punishment if you make 1 small mistake is huge. So it's very easy to make, not very easy. It's easier to make money long. It's easier to make money short. But it's also much easier to get very badly punished for a mistake, because the volatility is insane.
That's why I just say, that's that whole bus station analogy I mention all the time. I'm like, to me, now it takes discipline, but to me, it's never been easier to get stopped out. Okay. And that might sound weird, but it's like, to me, it's just like, take the stop, wait 5 minutes, and this goes both ways, you know, long or short, because it's like, again, if you short one of these wild runners, you take your stop, rolls over again, you hit it, probably second time, it's probably going to eat dirt. And you know, and you lost 250 the first time, you made 750 the second time, you're up 500. I mean, it's just right now, just take the stop, man, and stick to it. And whether you're using the chart, which right now is tough to use the chart, you know, or you're just using like a max dollar loss. If you buy GME and you're risking $100, $200, $500, just take the stop, because then if you re-enter in the afternoon, I mean, right now GME's sideways at 350. Okay, high days 380. All right, you know, this was a $4 stock a month ago, but anyway, I mean, listen, look at January 27th. If this thing breaks 380 this afternoon, it's gonna run. It's gonna run. Yeah. So if you took the stop when it pulled back at 11:30, it pulled back from 380 to 320. If you took that stop and you re-enter this afternoon on a 380 break, it's gonna go, you know. So,
but I mean, isn't that the crazy thing as well? Because with commissions being pretty much free now, right? Like, I understand when commissions are like $6, $7, you're like, I don't want to get in and out because I'm gonna get chopped up with fees. But there is literally no reason to not take your stops. Just get stopped, because if you stay in a trade, your discipline goes down, you exhaust your mental capital.
You use up your trading capital too.
Use up your trading capital, you can't think.
I mean, listen, if you got a small account, and you know, you should always have responsible risk management. But we all know, wink, wink, if you got a small account, you're probably using most of that account. So if you're sitting there bag holding, then Cost goes, or AMC goes, or BlackBerry goes, and then you're like, you know, and then so you're burning your financial capital and your mental capital. Just take this goddamn stop, you know.
But it's I kind of just don't. I mean, look, I don't understand it anymore because I've been through it all. But I'm like,
got the scars to prove it, baby.
Mental scars, Jesus Christ. But like, I think it's gonna go higher. I'm buying it. Didn't go higher. It kind of washed a little bit. I'm out. No, but this time it's gonna do it. It either does it or it doesn't. And then, I went wrong again. I'll try 3 times. If you get stopped out 3 times on the same stock, it's manipulated or your read's wrong. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you've made the wrong read, or it's manipulated. And under both situations, I don't really want to trade it. But you take 3 paper cut losses of like 1%, 2%, so what?
Yeah, and I tell you, the biggest thing, the reason I'm so fired up today is, you know, again, and I mean, there's a reason we've done 200 podcasts and I've done 2,000 webinars. You know, I mean, I've always had this passion for the markets and the opportunity and the interest, and it's just like, I mean, it never gets old, man. It never gets old. And the biggest, I keep saying this kind of democratization of the markets. Yep. And listen, I mean, you might be like, well, Tim, Joe Blow could buy stocks 100 years ago, but it's different now, man. It's different now.
Different.
Commission-free trading, you know, supercomputer in your pocket, you know, totally. You know, and you can go to these forums, or you can listen. I mean, there's all this information that you just didn't have. I mean, yeah, I know message boards have been around and Twitter's obviously been around, but what's great about what I love about Wall Street, what I love about Wall Street Bets is this ain't some Yahoo Finance forum where they're like, we believe. Nobody on Wall Street Bets believes in GameStop. Okay. Well, I hate to say nobody. Okay.
Probably a couple.
Couple
of confused people.
The majority of them know what they are doing. And they know they're piling in with a million small accounts into heavily shorted stocks and smoking hedge funds. They know what they're doing. I mean, listen, most of them are 25 years old. They know GameStop isn't a long-term growth stock. Okay. It's like, you know,
but I mean, let's be honest. Most of them are just doing what someone else told them, and they don't even care. They're just like, all right, so I make money if I buy here and I sell here. I don't. What's the company? It doesn't matter. Fair enough. I'm gonna make the money though, right? Yay! You're gonna make the money. It happened yesterday, and it worked the day before, and it worked the day before.
And it's funny Tim, that it's funny.
You put that video up. That video from Reddit thread.
Yeah, and again, it's just like, and everybody, great point. I'm glad you brought that up. So we'll make a point to link it, but it's this Joker meme when the Joker's on. I've never seen Joker. Always looked too depressing for me. I'm not into.
It's good.
I don't like dystopia porn. Okay, yeah. I've never been a fan of dystopia porn, but when the Joker, he's like on this talk show, and
he's on a particular talk show.
Yeah. Well, it'd be Kramer's, but yeah, it's who's the actor? De Niro. And I'm sure all of you guys know the scene, but he's like, I YOLO'd my $1,200 paycheck, and De Niro's like, oh yeah, that's so irresponsible, and listen, talking about dystopia, but the Joker's like, listen, I'm gonna work my shitty job for 60 years, and maybe I can retire, maybe. With the world we're in, devalued dollar, whatever you want to talk about, and you're yelling at me for YOLOing $1,200. It's like, boomer. Okay, boomer. You ruined the financial system over the last 40 years, and you're gonna yell at me because I threw $1,200 at some GME options. Meanwhile, a guy on Wall Street Bets, I think, turned 55 grand into 2 million or something on GME. And it's like, and meanwhile, again, Kramer can go on Mad Money and tell the whole world, oh, everything's fine at Bear Stearns. Don't worry about Bear Stearns. Day later, it goes out of business. Everything's fine. Don't worry. JP or what was Lehman Brothers? Oh, everything's fine at Lehman Brothers. Meanwhile, next day, all the minions, the Joe Blows, are carrying their shit out, escorted by security guards. And it's like, you guys did this, why can't we do it too?
Yep.
So,
yep.
But
did you guys ever see the movie Margin Call with Kevin Spacey? It's a bit of an obscure film. It didn't get it's so good. It's so good.
I don't think I'd like to think I've watched most. Yeah, I don't think I have though.
It's just the last, since early this morning when I started getting the calls, I was like, I got to watch that one again. But it's Kevin Spacey. And it's like the final hour, and here's a man of integrity, but it's in the kind of like the final hours right before 08 unfurls, and they start, I won't say who it is, what firm it is, because that firm still is afloat. But basically, when they started selling the crap to their own clients, because they realized they weren't going to meet their margin call.
Which again, the Big Short, you can talk about that. I mean, it's like, hey, all these banks, again, and you can sit here and, and the Big Short, the one big takeaway from that is like, it's like, they all wanted to blame, the cocktail waitresses in Vegas,
that's right.
They'd always make fun of her.
The strippers. Yeah. Who had 3 houses.
This dumb stripper with 3 houses. Yeah. Meanwhile, you gave that dumb stripper, and I'm not saying she is dumb. I'm saying from their perspective.
Totally.
Oh, should have been more responsible. Blah blah blah. Right.
Meanwhile,
you gave her
a living,
and you packaged up those 3 mortgages.
Correct.
Rolled them up with AAA mortgages and sold them to all your clients, and you didn't tell them that 3 stripper mortgages were in there rated AAA. And it's like. Oh, and you're just, and again, back to today. Wall Street Bets is so bad, yeah. Meanwhile,
it's like all those people are trying to just make their lives better so they can get ahead for their families or get ahead and not be, having to work 3 part-time waitressing jobs or strip, no, this is I'm going to do a little defending of strippers. There is no woman who does that primarily because she wants to. She's doing because that's where she can make the money.
Yep.
She wants to pay for her freaking, Ivy League college. That's $150,000. I mean, unless maybe you're Cardi B, but for the most part, every woman I've ever known who strips, it's because she can make coin.
You got some deadbeat loser dad that bailed on you because he's a piece of shit. And you got to put that kid through school or something.
Exactly.
And it's like, so yeah, but.
So it's like, all those people back in 08, like people got mad at people for, flipping homes or for renovating their homes or getting mortgages. But it's like, everybody's just trying to do what they can to get ahead. How can you get mad at them? Yep. Especially when you have somebody who seems to be an expert saying, hey, this is where you need to put your money because everybody's doing it. It's like, don't blame the victim for the crime.
Exactly. Yep. So what do you think, Stephen? How long will it last? Or and Kim, both of you.
I was just going to say personally that I love strippers, but I was debating whether or not it was ethically right or wrong to say.
I think any long-term listener knew that already.
Yeah,
I was just like, should I be honest about my opinion? It's a positive thing, not negative. But
you're so funny.
I don't think this can last much longer.
Why? Remember, I always like to know the why. So you're telling me it won't last. What's the why? Give me the why.
So because it's just pattern recognition. So like with ABML, like ABML, the OTC short, and all the OTC shorts, right? I don't know if you can see on camera, but OTCs are all stocks. In fact, every NASDAQ stock as well, right? They run smoothly up, and then the parabolic up, and then they crash all the way back down. And look, that's just what I know from trading, right? So the market probably does the same thing. It runs up, up, up. It gets out of control, and then it gives cracks and gives everything back because the world and the markets are a zero-sum game where what comes up must come down. That's the theory for me.
Yeah. Well, and don't misunderstand me. Keep in mind. I mean, listen. 2 months from, of course, I'm. It's funny. ZOM, the Carol Baskin pump, is still at $1, by the way.
Really?
But listen.
I watched almost all of Tiger King, by the way, but there's like so 2 episodes left. I have to tell you, it was very depressing. I really was having a hard time getting through it because these people are just so.
I was like inspired. I don't know how you got depressed. I was inspired by them. I was like, I want to be this guy. Either of them, any of the Tiger Kings. No, like Joe, whoever.
Joe Exotic? He's in jail, Stephen. He didn't get his pardon from Trump.
Well,
like he's in jail.
Or the other guy, like I was like, these guys have got awesome American lives. I'm like, this is the life I want.
They've got no teeth. I mean, they're all meth heads.
He
kills himself.
I'm literally saving up trading profits to buy a zoo in America.
My favorite meme from the whole Tiger King thing was, and this was me. When that all hit, like the one meme that I like posted the most was like, all these years, nobody told me I could buy a tiger for $3,000. I'm like, I got $3,000.
I'm gonna get a tiger.
I'm like, nobody told me I could buy a fucking tiger. Why didn't anybody tell me this? So,
I'm sorry, Mike Tyson didn't call you and let you know.
That's not a lot. That's not a lot of money for a tiger. Like I've always
wanted
a monkey though.
A tiger?
A monkey and tigers are sick. Like a lion's sick as well. Lions are pretty sick.
Oh my God. But that was such a depressing show. So I'm not sure I can listen to you guys about your recommendations anymore. It's just so sad. So sad.
So back to what I was saying is,
I'm sorry.
But the beauty of, and I agree, listen, GameStop's doomed. It's going back to $5. But I just, to me, again, the reason I'm so fired up for this podcast is it's BPTH, man. It's Dries, it's KBIO, it's just
LAK.
Yeah, all APT, all these stocks.
APVO. We can go. This is like a game we can go on for a while.
Yeah, and it's just that times 100. And what I love now is it's not this obscure niche. I mean, it's just like, again, I think there's 500,000 people on Wall Street Bets. I mean, that's insane, And I'm just so excited because listen. Like you said, like Steven said, like Kim said, it's like a lot of people are going to screw this up. But listen, a lot of people open restaurants and fail. It's like a lot of people, a lot of people make a lot of bad decisions.
True.
But what I love about this is you can do it from home. You can do it from your phone. If you're diligent, if you're disciplined, if you study, it's not like opening a restaurant, man. It's like, if your dream is to open a restaurant, I mean, man, you need $250,000, probably more, or you got to get investors, you got to get your uncle to give you some money. You got to get your, you
Pay off
wherever
the city officials.
Yeah, you got to
your
get
license,
permits,
your liquor license.
Yeah, licensing, and then heaven forbid you opened a restaurant last March,
Exactly.
now the government shuts you down, and that's why and you two and the listeners are probably just going to get sick of me saying that democratization. It's just like, it's like January. I mean, really, it was like yesterday. January 26, 2021 was like the day every man, every woman was like, we can do this. And I joked about, listen, Occupy Wall Street, whether they had the right idea or the wrong ideas, they had a lot of, I think they meant well, but they had a lot of bad ideas too. Yeah. But it's like power to the people, man. And we're going to, and now we can really do it. Now, if I make $1,000 or I make 10 grand or I make 2 million, what better way to stick it to the man, so.
Capitalism is the way to stick it to the powers that be, and that's what I feel like Occupy missed. They misunderstood that it wasn't capitalism's fault. It was that manipulation, it was the corruption, it was the system. And capitalism itself is like clean if it's done ethically, but what they were witnessing and aghast at was the corruption, which they should have been. But they, instead of thinking capitalism was the problem, if they had been smart enough, they would have said, "Oh, all those years ago, this could have begun. All those years ago."
And now and again, this is, nothing is more capitalist than a stock market. And now they're using, that's what gets me so excited.
It's using their own thing against them, but
exactly. You're turning the gun around, man. And
Right. That's right.
But the thing is though, the world is inherently ended up being designed to keep poor people poor and keep the rich rich and keep the poor poor.
Well said.
And the system, the stock market is basically a way to screw the system. It's a way to beat the system. It's saying you don't need to go through conventional education, corporate ladder, all of that. You don't need to do that. But if you put the work in and you study, you can bypass all that shit and you can make it to the top pretty quick. Now that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And a lot of guys have done it. I know we're picking on hedge
too many guys have done it. A lot of guys I know have done it.
Yeah, a lot of these guys, listen, they're just, listen, what's like the stereotypical like stock trader? It's just some like New Jersey bro, Totally. But what's great now, you don't, again, I'm like, this thing's pretty freaking awesome. And you don't have to take 20 years or know the right people. Again, if you're some New Jersey bro, your uncle knows a guy, he gets you in, but now, you don't need to move to New York or you don't need to know a guy. That's again, what's so exciting about it.
Yep, so. For sure. And I think that's what's so, what's happening now is I'm starting to also have I have a lot of executives, right, the C-suite level of finance that are, interested in coaching, and across the board, what I'm hearing from them is they're like, I sense that those jobs from 10 years ago, they're not coming back, are they? And I'm like, no, they're not coming back. And they're like, and you can see like there's this, and I think finance guys too, they've not been on social media, right? They have not been allowed to. All the companies they work for kept them locked out of it. So I don't think they have seen this seismic shift that's been happening. But it's been happening. It's been happening for a long time. But that is a very different mindset, working for a company in this industry and working for yourself. And that's part of why I love the day trade, is because you're so entrepreneurial. You are responsible for everything.
Eat what you kill. Eat what you kill.
Yep. Exactly. And I would say, if anything, to our viewers, are you entrepreneurial? If you aren't, this may not be for you. If you can take 100% responsibility and work, on understanding these patterns and doing like what Stephen has done for 4 years straight and just kept doing that work, then this is for you. But if it isn't, don't think you can come in here and then just buy one of these and be like, oh, I'm going to make my money like this all the time, because it's not going to last forever.
Well, again,
what goes up does come down.
Very, very well said. it's like, I keep bringing up that restaurant thing. I mean, you're not making money day one. Okay. I mean, I started my business when it'd be 96. I was, 22, started with a business partner. I mean, it was him and I've told this, I mean, we'd take $100 here, $100 there, to buy food. I mean, and it was like, and we hired the first employee, my wife, 3 years in, it's like,
Wow.
and paying $10 an hour cash, it's like, in some weeks, hey, I'll next week I'll pay it,
totally.
for years.
Yes.
And
yes.
So that's why I'm glad. I mean, it's the same, it's like I know I brought up the YOLOs and all that. I mean, that's not sustainable over time. Now, if you make 2 million, God bless you.
God bless you. But you probably didn't make 2 million unless you've been in this for a while.
And there's going to be a couple of those people, you know,
for sure.
And, but so I love that you said that. I mean, if you got it, but back to that whole start with your 1 share, 10 shares, 1 option contract, whatever it is,
Yeah.
So.
But it's also like, you don't like, if you're not too much of an entrepreneur or an entrepreneur mindset, it's okay to also just be a complete degenerate. Like if you're like obsessed with the charts, like if you're like obsessed with trading, obsessed with the charts, if you like can't get enough,
YOLO, man.
But if you can't get enough of the market and the stocks, you'll probably make it as well. Do you know what I mean? Like if you're just obsessed with it.
I think that is entrepreneurial though. Like I'm not saying.
I think it's being a gambling addict. That's
okay.
But in a good way though. I don't know. Maybe you've got a point, but I'd say it's just being like I don't know. Like I'm I'm addicted to it.
You can live in your own stuff. Like that if you do well, that it's because you studied and you're or maybe it's luck, right? Like you're willing to take responsibility for yourself and your trading account. That's all I mean by entrepreneurial. That you're somebody who doesn't need to have somebody like. Some people don't even want to figure out the taxes that they have to pay. They just want a paycheck where it's already taken out. There's people with that mindset. Yeah. They can't even well, if you give me this, who's going to take out my taxes? Like you can figure that out, but they don't want to. And if you're like that.
I had employees, great employees, great workers. To save on taxes, I would try, like Summit would work. I would lease a vehicle, like a really nice SUV, and try and give them that instead of comp, and they wouldn't take it. They would rather have $200 in their paycheck than an $800 vehicle. I'm like, listen, this helps me save some taxes. Correct. This vehicle costs $800 with insurance. It's $1,000 a month. No, totally. I want the $200. I'm like, okay.
It's just a mindset. It's a mindset of just, and that's the, Seth Godin's amazing book is called Linchpin, and the subtitle is Are You Indispensable? And he talks about like in companies or if you work for yourself, like, are you indispensable? If you're not, then you're going to be given a pink slip. And now what I feel is happening culturally across the board is everybody's being forced to ask themselves, are they indispensable? Even just to themselves. And how do you become more indispensable? You are indispensable to yourself, Stephen, with the way you trade because of how you've been so 100% in. But the people who have been working at companies like, just doing their basic job, they're not going to have a job. And then they're going to be faced with the situation of now what do I do? And I'm just thinking, God, some of those people, they're not going to make it as traders because they don't know how to be reliant, self-reliant. They're always reliant on an authority figure, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think I'm so used to the trading world now, and I'm so used to being surrounded with other traders that I just forgot. Like I forgot that people just show up and wait to be told what to do and wait to be told when to be paid. I forgot that people like that existed because I'm around traders all the time now.
Listen, there's a reason. There's a reason I sold my business. There's a lot of people that just want to show up and be told what to do.
And then not do it.
And then it's my fault when they don't do it.
Touche. Then not do it. And when that happens, when you're a trader, you pay the price, right? You pay the price. So you quickly have to become somebody who is responsible for themselves. Trading forces your hand to be completely responsible for everything. You can't blame anybody. You can't blame the market, these crazy days. You can't blame Steven Johnson, Tim Bohen. You can't blame anybody. And unless you're that, so that's why I say to people, like, as the people that are wanting to all plow in, I'm like, are you somebody who constantly, blames it on this person, blames it on that person? Like, because it's not going to go well for you. It's not going to go well. This is a quick litmus test if you could handle this. But if you could take 100% responsibility for everything that shows up in your life, then this might be for you.
Yeah, the other best part of it is you get in what you put out. You get out what you put in, sorry. Like, it's just so good. Like, when someone's like saying, oh, I just can't make it, and I've been like working hard for 4 years, I'm like, well, I'll ask them a question related to a stock or the trading, and they don't know the answer. And I'm like, how you not check this? Like, I don't check that. Don't do that. I'm like, well, how you not been tracking your stuff or your trades? It takes too long. Like, don't blame anyone. Don't just blame yourself, because you're not doing the work.
Totally.
It's not a teacher. It's not a teacher.
I'll get the emails, and listen, I'm here to help, but I'll get the emails, and they're like, I got like 5 losing trades, and you're like, what are the tickers? And they're like, it's like you don't even remember what you lost. I mean, it's like,
oh my God.
Or I'll say, send me charts with your entries and exits. Never hear from them again. It's like, so, but whatever. It's like that with anything. I mean, it's like, so.
But that's surely the minority, right? Is it?
Oh,
or
yeah,
is it the majority?
I mean,
if it's the majority, we're in trouble.
Yeah, no, it's a minority, but but like you were telling that story to somebody like 4 years in, it's like, okay, you're done, buddy.
Something's wrong.
Like, if you're shorting a hot sector without knowing that you're shorting a hot sector, if you don't know what you own, then you're in trouble. Do you know what I mean?
You're with the name that won't be named.
So I have a question. I'm curious about the article that I sent you guys yesterday. I mean, what, besides them maybe being investors, like, why would those two hedge funds bail out Melvin Capital? Like, what?
Oh, they got again. I didn't read it yet, and so fact check me, dear listener, on this. But basically, they got a cut of future profits is what they did. Okay. They're just like, I mean, again,
but almost $3 billion, $2.8 billion.
Listen, this is Wall Street. They just giving him money. It's just like, here we go with the restaurant analogy again. Okay, listen, if you coming to me and you're like, Tim, I can't make payroll tomorrow. I'm like, well, I'll help you out. But, I get 10%, or what, and that's what it was. I think Melvin had done well for years. Yeah. So they said, well, hey, we'll help you out, buddy. But we get whatever that is. I'm sure they got a cut of future profits or something like that.
It's like the payday blowing places that take from poor people and charge 500% to get their check paid cash today.
Oh, they were just doing it out of the good of their hearts, Kim.
No, but
I think, but even that, like, are they going to be able to make their money back? That's what I'm thinking. But
well, what if it's just like, again, here I go with the restaurant analogy. If I give you $50,000 to save your restaurant, you still might go out of business, but that's just that's just the risk you take, and I decide, okay, well, if there's rats running around Kim's restaurant and their Yelp reviews are terrible, I'm probably not going to give you $50,000. If you've got great food and people, and maybe you just hit you got shut down for a couple months because of coronavirus, then I'm like, hey, her reviews are good. She runs good. People are happy. The parking lot's full. I'll give you $50,000 for 10% or whatever. So,
but, what were you going to say, Stephen?
This GME thing, it reminds us of a famous trader quote, and it's with GME and with Melvin, it's like the market can stay irrational longer than they can stay rational, and it's just standard.
Solvent.
They're like, when is this madness going to end? And they're like, it lasts as long as it wants. Well, and don't try and hold your position.
The wildest thing, Stephen, and Kim, I'm sure you guys saw this. Stephen, they covered this morning. And it's just like low float land. I mean, in my opinion, they're going to cover the exact top.
It's it's absolutely terrible. I know. Was it 160 or 260 was GME?
380.
Like
yeah.
380.
They went on CNBC at like 6:30 this morning. Well, at 4 a.m. it was 160. Sideways, rips to 380, hit news hits on CNBC. They covered the absolute, well, we'll see. But as of right now, they top ticked the cover, which is what happens to every newbie short seller. Because it just gets the pain. And then we've all listened.
And then it speeds up. Yeah, I can't do it anymore.
And then you cover. There's that one little wick on the candle, and then it just fades into oblivion.
But I mean, that's why you have to cut your losses. I mean, look, unless
they could have covered yesterday at 90. You know?
I know, but if you don't cut your loss, are you going to cut the next one and the next one and the next one? And we've said this millions of times, but if you're on a $5 stock or a $4 stock and it starts going to 10, if it goes 100% on you, you need to think like, is this going to $100 and I can write it out? And if you can, maybe try it if you want. But if you can't write out $100, cut now because you're going to get stopped out somewhere ridiculous.
Well, and obviously history will tell the tale. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of reporters on this beat right now. But I mean, ultimately, my guess is it probably wasn't even their decision. You know, they got prime brokers. You know, they got they still, you know, it's not like operating on their own.
That's right.
Somebody,
good point.
Somebody from above is probably just like, you're done. You know, we've all been there. We've all been there when you get the email from Interactive Brokers and you're like, you know.
But they'll be sitting there thinking, it's nearly over. It's nearly over. Don't take us out. We just need to add a little bit more at this point, and we'll cut a break even. So yeah.
Wow. It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. And by the way, the JJ episode that Tim talked about before, guys, I checked it out. It's episode 179 at 22,000 views now, that episode with JJ Gorilla from Confessions of a Market Maker. And it was done. We released it 1 month ago, believe it or not.
Actually, he tagged me yesterday and you know, talking, you know, he's coming back. And,
you
know, he even said, he's like, hey, you know, at one point, you know, and he'll talk about the mechanics of this because it'll be confusing when I say this, but you know, with options and stuff, he said like 200% of the float was short at one point. So when you're like, you know, how does GameStop, again, failing retailer, you know, again, I go back to my old business partner calling me. He's like, what's going on? It's GameStop. And I'm like, I know, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Quit calling it Blockbuster. It's not about the business right now. He's like, they hired some. I'm like, it's not about this turnaround story. It's not that. 200% of the float is short, and 500,000 minions are buying it. You know, it's like.
So what did JJ tweet at you?
No, he just said he's like looking forward to coming back on. I'm going to explain how 200% of the float was short. So yeah.
Okay, good. So. Beautiful. Yeah, I was thinking it'd probably be good. I'm so glad we already have him booked, because I thought after this, you know, few craziness, it's good to have that conversation. And that's what that person that called me this morning, he's like, I just worry that, you know, this may make people think that the market is manipulated. I was like, it is manipulated.
It's a disaster. It's an absolute disaster. Well, it's not though, because if the market wasn't manipulated, all of the patterns wouldn't work the way they work, and it would be more random. And if the market was random, we wouldn't be able to make money.
Yeah,
but if the market was random, we wouldn't make money. 1%
a day. You know, it's like listen, if the stock market functioned rationally, you'd you know, it'd be like Apple would go up 10 cents a day. You know, it's like
you need it. We need them. We need the hedge funds. How about you need the hedge funds because they're the ones that make the volatility, that makes the money.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. All right. So what's your prediction, guys? How long can this last for?
I'd say February. As soon as we roll into February, it's gonna drop off, and people are gonna be like, "Whoa, scanners aren't as busy." That's my call.
What do you think, Tim?
Well, I mean, everybody knows what I'm going to say. I'm like as much as I make fun of Steven being degenerate, I'm like the ultimate degenerate. I I just don't think you can get this cat back in the bag. And I know I've told this story for a year, but I just go back to Portnoy, and it's like that. I mean, I know he's back. I mean, he's opening casinos, so he's less day trading because sports are back. But he's got the bug, man. He's talking about GameStop. He's going on CNBC. I mean, it's just, I don't know how, I just, listen, it was awesome to see it as an old guy. I love seeing Tom Brady back in the Super Bowl, but it's like, I watched that game with my daughter, but it's like, it's just football, man. It ain't the stock market. It ain't GME going from 5 to 400 in 3 days. And I just think, quote unquote, and I've said that, hell, I've wrote blog pieces about everybody's a day trader. When I first started doing the Instagram lives every day, that was the very first one. I held up that, I think it's a Barron's article, and I'm like, man, it's just everyone. I mean, my son is working on a fiber optic crew. There are 6 of these guys. They're on a fiber optic crew outside in Michigan winters. All of them are trading on Robinhood. All of them. And they're all buying Wall Street bet stocks. I mean, all of them. He comes home and he's like, I bought, I think he bought 1 share of Palantir the other day and he made $10 and he was all excited. It's just like, it's
so
just,
it begins.
And so it begins.
So it begins.
And
so
I just,
starts.
and back to that gaming thing. I mean, listen, and I've talked about the downfall of sports and the uprise of gaming, which is funny that GameStop happens to be the stock. I mean, listen, I know it's not like it's Xbox or anything, but it is kind of gaming related, obviously.
Totally.
What's the ultimate fucking video game, man? I mean, and Robinhood gets in trouble, and I'm sure you guys have seen the article. I mean, Robinhood, that app is
like a game.
addictive. And but what's the ultimate video game, man? I mean, hey, I used to play
the one
Quake.
that never ends.
I played Quake back in the day, but it's or Call of Duty, but it's like it ain't the stock market, man. So, and you've got an entire generation of gamers. I mean, you've got and people that are, this is, again, that's something I've talked about a lot. I mean, you got these people that grew up gamers and they're 30-year-old making good money. They got a good job at some social media company or something. And they're a gamer and they got the Robinhood app and they, again, maybe they got a good job. They got $100,000 in their account. Pew, 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 man. Way more fun than Call of Duty.
But just to add one other thing as well, and it is a game. It's stock market is pretty much a game, right? But to be optimal at it, and this is why so many people win paper trading and then lose with money. To be optimal, you've got to be okay to like win 500, lose 500. It's got to be okay. You can't really be thinking about the money. It's like, oh God, that's $100 I'm down. It takes time to disassociate money from money.
Right.
And because like I can do it, and I'm sure Tim can do it. You can lose you go like, oh, I'm down $300, $500, and it's score. Do you know what I mean? You're like, oh, if I go to 1,000, I've max loss and I'm out for the day. I've lost the game today. But the money can't matter to you, and it takes time for it not to matter.
Yeah, and I don't know if you were on the webinar this morning. I talked about a lot because people were like,
yes, sir.
How do you trade these stocks? And I'm like, listen, pick your number, whatever your number is. If that's $100. That's your loss today. Okay. So if you're trading GME and you're down $100, you're done. Go to the day job. Go do what you got to do. But you pick your number if you're trading GME or COS or BlackBerry or AMC or what, and that's your number. And that number needs to be a number that you're okay with. And listen, if you're new and you don't have the scars that Steven, maybe it's $100, but stick to that number. Now, maybe you've been around and maybe you got a little money in the bank. Maybe it's 1,000, maybe it's 10 grand. I don't know, but that number you need to be okay with.
And if you do have trading, it shouldn't be 10 grand. I don't care how much money you've got.
Well, I'm just, I'm extrapolating, but whatever that number is, you now, and that was the point I made on the webinar. I'm like, listen, if you're not okay with that, stick to your Apples, stick to your Amazons, stay away from this shit. But you can't, barring some halt or some news, or you can't have that number be something that's going to put you in a rage, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, Kunal Desai, I love that guy. One of the greatest guys and funniest guys in day trading. He posted a meme and it was like, you know, new day trader lost like 500 and he's like smashing shit. And the veteran day trader lost 500 and he's like reading a book. And, you know, you both lost.
Brilliant.
But it's like,
brilliant.
This is the game you're playing. And
that's it.
you know,
That's
and
so
that
funny.
comes with time, you know. So listen, sure. I've told that story many times. This was probably 8. I've smashed mice, keyboards. I've almost several times almost like broke my hand. But one of my favorite stories about being squeezed out of a short, oddly enough, was I punched my monitor, and I mean as hard as I could. I was pissed. Blasted it. Flies off, lays down. I didn't even break it. So
But,
it worked for like 3 years. So if you're ever in a fist fight with me, you probably don't need to worry about it. I mean, I punched as hard as I could, and it worked for 3 years. So,
but I would just say though, a pal, I got a message off a pal, and he says, "Look, I was $1,000 up, and then I've closed $2,000 down. I'm not profitable yet. I'm just getting by. He's been at it a couple of years. He's a good friend." And he says, "I got so annoyed, I started like screaming at the computer." He says, "I think I need to take a break." And I says, "To be honest, I think you screaming at the computer is just and warranted in the correct action for turning a 1K win into a 2K loss or whatever it was. Says you should be dead angry because that is terrible discipline, terrible. And you should be mad. You should be that pissed off. Now,
if you're up,
don't do it again.
You should be stopping at break even, worst case scenario or something. Yeah, you know.
Minus 200. I mean, he was long OXBR. Like, you know, okay. OXBR, right? He dipped both OXBR. It's like the most one and done wiki candle chart. He dip bought it, and I'm like, I'd be screaming if I dip bought it. And then back held it.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, I ramble on, but I just in closing, I just don't think I don't think you put the cat back in the bag, man. Yeah. And now it may end terribly. You know, it may end up. Longtime listeners of the podcast will remember Steven's wiping out on his bike into a sheet of glass and falling off of a cliff. One of the classic season 1 analogies. It might end bad, but I mean, ultimately, you know, markets aren't going anywhere. You know, it's just like
markets not going anywhere. Yeah. I'm just saying this crazy, like it was crazy in 2020. It went like double crazy in 2021. It'll go back to 2020 crazy. That's what I'm saying.
Fair enough. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not saying it's dead. Nah, It'll never go away. It's gone too far.
Yeah.
We've gone too far. Yeah, but it'll.
So we're closer in agreement than I thought.
Yeah. No, it can never. But that. And sorry to make it go on, but that drop in September, was it? Yeah. No, was it September? It just went quiet for 2 weeks. Like, where did the Robin Hood house go? It's kind of weird.
Maybe their moms forced them to stop trading for a week or two because they were freaking out at dinner every day. I just keep thinking of that. I think it was it Rogan who put up the 2 clowns, and one of the clowns was 2020. And he was showing Joker, 2021 around.
It was Joker and Pennywise, yeah. Joker and Pennywise, yeah.
It's like, 2020 showing 2021 around. Still a clown, still a little wackadoo. So.
Yeah, and that's, ultimately it's like, and that's something, I've gone on and on and on about. I mean, listen, there's a lot bad in the world,
Yeah.
But I tell you, focus on your trading, man, because you can, day to day, when you're in this stuff, man, it's like, I've been the happiest I've been in, the last year and a half. It's like, it's a fucking blast, man. I tell you what. And I'm not making
him. Fair enough.
That's when I met you. That was the day I met you. Yeah, going back to the day. Yeah. But it's just like, listen, and I'm not making light of pandemics or famine or war or anything, but
no.
Whew, It's been fun, man. It's been wild.
Nah, but it's exciting, but it's also scary, and it's about as exciting as it is scary. And I'm finding myself a lot of times.
Kind of sounds like your sex life, exciting and scary. You know, so
that's the best way to have it. But,
Everybody's sex life.
The only way it should be. Like choke is a little bit, but not too much. It's a little bit like that. But now, like 11, 12 o'clock, I'm going for runs, like just to chill out. Like I'm taking some steam off midday.
Dude, it's a struggle for me. It's like, I tell you, I know we're supposed to be wrapping this up, but I walk away from this computer and I like get halfway across the room. I come back and I'm like, I was going to do something, and I'm like, what was I going to do? It's like, I tell you.
Dopamine detoxes. Some dopamine detoxes, guys.
And again, at night I do it, but like, I mean, when you're talking 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.,
it's a long day.
I do it several times a day. I'll be like, I'm going to go do something. And then I'm like back here. I'm like, I was good. And then I don't even remember what I was going to do. I was like, well, I was going to like, check the mail, or I'm like, it's like, so.
Dopamine detox. We got to watch for it. I'm so glad you're running in the middle of the day, Stephen. You should get on the rowing machine, Tim, in the middle of the day to just interrupt the dopamine.
And I do, but it's just, right. I was just telling you, it's like, and again, I'm, full disclosure, it's just like that happens so much. And I'm like just back at this computer, and I'm like, I just walked here, and I didn't even make it. I didn't even make it out of the room. I like got to the door and came back, and I'm like, I was going to do something.
Not good. Are you still in lockdown, Stephen?
Yes, but I'm in lockdown for another couple of weeks, I think. So I'm allowed outside once a day. But look, the markets are outrageous. I'm studying like hell, mastering long setups, and that's going well. I'm making some money, and that's amazing.
Good.
So I'm pretty occupied. I'm like, honestly, like the market's so mad that I'm just going outside to like shake it off and relax, because you just can't be emotional in this game. You just can't be. Shake it off and come back onto the next.
See, and that's like the one thing, like, speaking of Dan from Trade Zero, that was his, his theory was, once we can, once we can get outside, we can travel. And again, greatly respect that guy. The only counter to that argument I got is, again, it's like, it's 4G, 5G, baby. It's like, and again, 10 years ago, if this was happening, I think you would have seen volume collapse,
Yes.
But now it's like, I don't, you're still going to be waiting for the Uber, You're still going to be waiting for your food, and it's like.
So true. Should we wrap it up there?
We're all going to have a big rest at some point, right? Like, I never, ever in a million years thought that I would pray for the markets to go quiet. But like July, August, September, like I'll grind it. I'll grind it like hell. I'll grind it all the way up to like July, August. But I hope, because you can't turn off when the markets are hot. You can't. It's impossible, because you're missing stuff. It's impossible to turn off. So like I just pray that the markets go quiet so I can only look like for an hour a day. Like that's what I want. Go on holiday.
Especially like summer, again, like, I tell that story all the time, and, and Stephen, you're in a cold climate now, it's like when you're in Michigan, man, you appreciate freaking summer. And this summer, I told that, I think most you listeners, you guys know, I mean, I'm a weekend handyman. I like to do stuff, build stuff. And I have never gotten less done than the summer of 2020, man. I hired out more stuff that I would normally do. Projects took weeks longer. And so, I mean, it would be nice to maybe have a normal June, July, August.
Exactly. It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I mean, I'm very curious what's going to happen. I'm very curious. Very curious what's going to happen.
I just hope everyone stays safe, man. Like every day I walk in and I'm like, I hope this isn't the day that something goes wrong. Every single day I'm like, what's your exit before you enter?
See, and that's, and again, I gotta go. We got to end this. But Stephen, listen to that, because that I think is one of the when we talk about the high failure rate, rewind and listen to what Steven just said. Every day he's sitting down and he's like, something bad could happen. I could lose $5,000. I could lose $10,000. Something really bad could happen. He's sitting down with that mindset. And I think one of the biggest reasons we see the high failure rate we do is so many people are sitting down thinking, I can make $5,000 a day. I can make $10,000 a day. And they're not sitting down thinking I could lose $5,000 a day. And I think that
point.
Solid gold ending, Stephen. Well done. So
that's market experience. It's a good teacher, eh? It's a good teacher.
Only if you're willing to learn. Only if you're willing to learn, but you've been willing to learn.
Because I've been through the suicide of like, I've just lost $5,000. I'm like, I'm not doing that shit again. And I probably will. But as little as possible.
Not the same way. Not the same way.
Nah.
All right, everyone. I hope you have an amazing 2021. Definitely head over to SteadyTrade.com. We'll link a lot of the stuff we talk about. Past episodes are all there. Share with your friends. And, again, I was gonna finish with the plant the tree analogy, but I'm gonna finish with Steven's point and just, again, get that mindset that, and I know it's like it's kind of a downer to end with, but get to the point where you're thinking about what you can lose versus what you can make. And if you get that one little thing from today and you don't become a YOLOer, you're way closer to success, in my opinion. So have a great day, Kim. Have a great day, Steven. And we'll see you on the next episode of the Steady Trade Podcast.